This is obviously a word-for-word insertion from the law, and
I've always been curious as to how you go about that.
usually I go like this. But you're right; it's a difficult task, and not having information acts to the detriment of the operator and the EP. If you would just say it's a valuable resource, that doesn't necessarily make a persuasive argument.
I agree. And again, back to the question is, how does what does the DEP rely on then from the operator to make that decision whether that condition should be applied to the permit or not? That's my point. I could write a 3D model, explain to you that I'm going to release 200,000 barrels of oil with this condition on the permit. Are you going to accept that, or do you have the expertise to accept that?
We will have to just evaluate on a case-by-case basis. I think that we have the ability to make those kinds of basic evaluations. And of course, if we're wrong, there can be experts provided to have a neutral third party evaluate, make that judgment. Talk in greater detail at the end of the meeting about page 10 and 11. I have not had any other comments until page 13. I will pause just to get this out of the way. Page 12. We've changed throughout the document the word containment when we're talking about storing fluids on site, so there's no confusion about the containment systems and practices requirements further on in the document. So the next change, which is on page 13, this has been a bit of a back and forth point throughout the regulations, and during discussions with key authors of the law, we have been informed that this precise term was a critical component of the statute that was part of the legislative process, and that we should use the term as it is provided in the statute, and that this term indeed means a better of standard. If you had water that did not meet safe drinking water standards and was made worse by oil and gas activities, you will receive water that meets safe drinking water standards. If you had water that was far better than safe drinking water standards, and the water supply now is worse than that, you are to be provided with water that was as good as you had in the beginning.
Very significant change.
It's a change from how we have implemented the program in the past. But as was explained to me, that this is what was intended by the legislature when they wrote the law, and we must, at a minimum, reflect what the actual words are in the statute. Clearly, that may not be the end of it, but I'm just for the sake of transparency and clarity, let the TAP members and the public better know what was the intention of key drafters of the law at the time, and their strong recommendation that we use the language that was provided in the statute, do not interpret it as part of this rulemaking.
Does this refer to both primary and secondary standards? Just primary? Or which are the secondary, if it includes the secondary?
Yeah, certainly, manganese and iron are secondary standards, fluorides are secondary standards, and they would all need to be as good as or better than those standards, depending on whether the water was as good as or better than those standards.
In the case where you have a variation, the original supply had high iron,
Sure.
low manganese. The iron exceeded the standard, the manganese was under.
The iron
And
is,
you know, the supply you provide brings the iron into compliance, the manganese is within the standards, but something else is higher, slightly higher. The chlorides is 10 milligrams higher than what it was originally. Maybe it's just beyond the limit. I mean, what do you do in that situation? You've improved some and degraded others. Is there a balance there?
the department's, my analysis of this provision is that the homeowner always gets the better of what they had before for drinking water standards. Or the better of what they had before drilling for drinking water standards. So if the water before drilling exceeded drinking water standards, they get drinking water standards. And if the water was significantly exceeded those standards, was better than those standards, they get the better than those standards water. And if in the process of treatment, that you meet the goal for certain parameters, but I suppose you're using a water softener, right?
Right.
And now chlorides are higher. Water softener might not be the preferred method of treatment then.
I mean, I could see somebody raising a concern they don't have disinfection on their well, and you
Well, it
provide.
has to be provided, it has to be caused by oil and gas activities though.
Well, yeah, but you can't.
If people have a coliform problem, then they have a coliform problem.
But I don't know of any operator that probably wouldn't attempt to address that in improving the water supply.
And I appreciate that, it may very well be, need to do that to make whatever other part of the system actually work right. But I don't think the department would necessarily concern itself with parameters that were not related to oil and gas activities.
Okay.
Very, very significant shift from my understanding. Is this something visiting again, or is this a closed book?
I think it's a closed book. Well, it's a closed book until someone wants to take it to a different venue. So all we're doing is using the exact language that is in the statute. We are not interpreting it as we were doing previously. I'm advising you as to what the interpretation would be. But the department certainly is not the final say on those statute issues of statutory interpretation. On page 14, section 52E, at previous meetings, having commented on submittal of lab results when basically all results for a survey associated with a well are done. And we accepted that comment. This is our attempt to address that. So you've got an individual, what is the difference between sample and survey? sample would be for an individual homeowner. Survey is intended to encompass all of the samples taken for the well proposed to be built. So once all of the sample results are received for the entire survey, then they must be submitted within 10 days. The only thing that we, I think we kind of stumbled over, Steve, was the idea that the homeowner gets it within 10 days. They might,
So that they're not waiting months on it until the whole entire survey is complete.
I think that's what we talked about before. When you talk about completion of the survey, that's receipt of the lab results, that's the completion of the survey.
All lab results.
All lab results,
Yes.
yeah. The concern was that you go out in the field and you do the survey and get the samples. The field work is done, that's not the completion of the survey. It's when you get the lab results.
Yes,
Then
because
you have 10 days to get that package into the department.
yes, and I think it's even more than that. If you take 10 homes are within that quarter-mile distance, it was all lab results.
All lab results.
All lab results.
I appreciate that change, I think that's going to make it better.
Yes, because under the current standards, as you know, drinking water samples have different holding times and take, some are 24 hours, some up to 6 months. And I think the department prefers to have the whole package submitted, so for our management purposes, instead of getting everything just,
So one thing that I'd like for you to consider though is the idea of, you completed the total survey, if you will, for a single homeowner. And it seems that there could be some consideration given to providing that single homeowner with the totality of their results as that is made known, but the department with the totality of the complete survey of all 25 homes when that's all done, so that when we get a full package of information, we know that this is for a certain well.
I agree with that.
Okay.
The homeowner's entitled to their results, they don't have to wait because you can't reach someone else within that area of search. I agree.
Is there anything in this section, whether it's D, E, or F, or G, that refers to how the department's going to handle complaints that are beyond this rebuttable presumption zone?
No, we respond to every complaint. And how we manage it obviously depends on the facts that are presented to us. But whether the well was drilled 50 years ago and 5 miles away, someone calls and says they think they've got an oil and gas problem, we'll go and respond.
We've run into an issue here, Scott, that I don't think we can correct these regulations, but I believe it's in the statute, and that is you identify all water supplies to a radius of 3,000 feet, but have a presumption of fill of 2,500 feet. So there's 500 feet in between there that a property owner is contacted and then not sampled. And it's created some confusion and bad feelings. At times, those people have fallen that no man between 2,500 and 3,000 feet. I don't know if you can do anything about that here, but keep in mind that that's created some friction with homeowners.
I mean, it seems like there's a little bit of options to change the law or go out farther on the sampling.
Right, and many operators accept it, decide to go out a little bit further, but not all. Not all.
Sure.
Why should they sample if they're not getting the benefit of protection? So it's just a rough spot that we need to stay aware of.
I would actually advocate that they do get a benefit. Well, it's not presumptive, it's certainly informative.
Right. That's right. In terms of proving their case.
Mhm.
I understand.
But, yeah, right, what's the cost of versus risk.
That point, so in a situation where you're, you have a complaint that's outside the 2,500 foot or 3,000 foot, are you then assigning those complaints to individual operators?
Well, it depends on if it's a methane migration case, yes. The area of impact is not so limited for purposes of, I'm with Greg site 78, 89? Yeah, 78, 89. Obviously, multiple operators are potentially involved. We may notify multiple operators. Obviously, some of the things we would contemplate before we would say everybody within a 5-mile radius is implicated is an evaluation of the dates and times associated with drilling, hydraulic fracturing activities, the